The Galactic Confederation's survey database listed Earth's hippopotamus under a single, dismissive classification. Threat level, negligible. Large herbivore. Semi-aquatic. Slow on land. Non-predatory. Commander Varek of the Kethari battle fleet had read that entry 17 times since arriving in orbit. He found it reassuring. His species had conquered 43 worlds by deploying the Ravager, a bioengineered predator the size of a school bus, armored like a tank, built for one purpose: breaking the will of indigenous populations without firing a single plasma bolt. It was elegant. Psychological. Efficient. It had never failed. The Kethari scout team, 4 soldiers named Wa, Hai De, and New York, descended on the Zambezi floodplains at dawn, the Ravager restrained in magnetic containment behind them. Their 5th member, Me, piloted the dropship. Joe, their xenobiologist, stayed aboard to observe and record. Release point confirmed, Joe transmitted from the ship. The grazing creatures ahead matched the database entry. Hippopotamus amphibious. Select 1. The Ravager will make short work of it. The local humans watching from that ranger station will lose their nerve within seconds. We pointed at a massive shape half submerged in the river shallows, 2 tons of gray flesh lounging in the morning mist like a boulder that had decided to breathe. That one, he said. It is barely moving. It looks like a vegetable, New York said. De laughed, a wet, clicking sound natural to the Kethari. This planet's dominant species chose this as a symbol of strength? No wonder they never reached the stars. None of them noticed the single human standing at the edge of the riverbank, 40 meters away, watching them with calm, unhurried eyes. Ethan Cole had been a wildlife specialist for the Zimbabwe Parks Authority for 11 years. He had tranquilized buffalo, tracked leopards at midnight, and once talked a panicked tourist out of a tree while a black mamba waited patiently below. He was not, by any measurable standard, easily rattled. He had also been monitoring this particular group of strange lights in the sky for 3 nights running, radioing Harare about them, and being told by his supervisor Me, reached via satellite phone, to stop watching too many documentaries. So when 4 decidedly non-human figures in silver armor materialized from a craft near the water's edge and began activating what looked like a mechanical cage containing something enormous and angry, Ethan did not run. He pulled out his field radio. He called Joe, Dr. Joe Bonda, the Parks Authority's chief animal behaviorist, currently en route by jeep from Victoria Falls. Joe, he said quietly. I need you to drive faster. Then he looked at the hippo in the shallows, old Mama 12, they called her, because she'd calved 12 times in 30 years and was approximately as forgiving as a freight train, and he felt something in his chest go very, very cold. Oh, you idiots, he whispered. You have no idea. The Ravager was released at 6:47 a.m. local time. It stood 8 feet at the shoulder. Its exoskeleton was layered carbon composite over living muscle. Its jaw pressure exceeded 14,000 psi. In 43 planetary interventions, nothing, not apex predators, not armored war beasts, not creatures twice its size, had stood against it for more than 90 seconds. What activated the release sequence? The Ravager charged toward the river. Mama 12 heard it coming. Later, Ethan would try to explain to Commander Varek, via a translation device, that the aliens apparently had been withholding and only produced after things went very wrong, that the database entry for hippopotamus amphibious was missing several critical notes. 1. Hippos kill more humans in Africa than any other large land animal. 2. A hippopotamus can run at 32 kilometers per hour. On land. For short bursts. 3. Hippos are profoundly, violently territorial. The river was Mama 12's territory. Had been for 27 years. 4. A hippopotamus's jaw can open to an angle of 150 degrees. The canine teeth alone reach 50 centimeters in length. 5. Hippos do not retreat. Hippos do not evaluate threats on a size-based rubric. Hippos simply respond, immediately and with totality. The Ravager reached the waterline and let out its battle shriek, a sound designed by Cathari bioengineers to trigger the panic response in 91% of known vertebrate nervous systems. Mama 12 was not in the 91%. She was already moving. The sound of impact reached Webb before he could process what he was seeing. The Ravager outweighed the hippo by 400 kilograms. This information became rapidly irrelevant. Mama 12 hit it like a wall being demolished from the inside. The Ravager stumbled, bioengineered claws skidding in the mud, and before it could recover, she had turned, jaw open so wide it looked physically impossible, and clamped down on the Ravager's rear flank with a force that bent the carbon composite armor like tin foil. What started? The Ravager screamed. It was the first time any of them had heard it make that sound. Mama 12 drove it into the shallows. The water exploded white. Two younger bulls, Bigmy and High, names given by the rangers, surfaced from downstream, drawn by the disturbance, and with the slow, inevitable logic of creatures who had never needed to evolve fear, began moving toward the commotion. New York ran back toward the ship. Dis stood frozen. What activated his calm Commander Varek? The Ravager it's, something has it, the creature has it by the... Explain yourself, Varek's voice crackled. The vegetable is eating our weapon. Ethan walked to the edge of the bank. The Ravager was technically still functional, still fighting, still thrashing, but it had made the mistake of trying to clamp its own jaw around Mama 12's skull, and she had responded by simply continuing to walk, dragging it sideways through 3 feet of water with the placid determination of a creature that had absolutely nothing to prove to anyone. Joe's jeep arrived. She stepped out, field binoculars already raised. Is that, she began. Yes, Ethan said. And those are? Yes. She lowered the binoculars. Do they know what a hippo is? They did not. Joe was quiet for a moment. How long has this been going on? Ethan checked his watch. 40 seconds. The Ravager lost purchase entirely and was rolled. 2.5 tons of hippo applied to 8 feet of alien bioweapon. Something structural in the Ravager's torso gave way with a sound like a car being compressed. 40 seconds, Joe repeated. She looked at the alien soldiers, 2 of them now standing completely still, one who appeared to have actually fainted, one who was speaking rapidly into a communication device. She looked at the water. She looked at Ethan. Do we intervene? Mama 12 will stop when she decides it's stopped. And the aliens? Ethan glanced at them. Wah had dropped his weapon. Hi, the soldier, not the hippo, had sat down on the grass. De was recording something, possibly as documentation, possibly as evidence of trauma. I think, Ethan said carefully, they're reconsidering some assumptions. Commander Varek came down personally, 40 minutes later. He had never come down personally before. That was, traditionally, what the Ravager was for. The Ravager was currently half submerged in shallow water, non-functional, while 2 young male hippos investigated it with the idle curiosity of creatures who had already decided it wasn't food and weren't yet sure if it was interesting enough to push around more. Varek stood on the bank. He was taller than Ethan by half a meter, and his species communicated threat via chromatic skin shifts, and he was currently a very pale, unsettled shade of gray. He looked at the Ravager. He looked at Mama 12, who had returned to her original position, submerged to the eyes, unhurried, watching him the way old things watch young things who don't know better yet. He looked at Ethan. Your database, Varek said through the translator, is incomplete. Yes, Ethan agreed. It usually is. That creature. It is classified as non-threatening. By whom? Varek didn't answer. Ethan watched him work through something private and probably humbling. You knew, Varek said finally. It wasn't an accusation. It was closer to wonder. I've worked with hippos for 11 years, Ethan said. You don't surprise them. You don't corner them. You don't put something loud and aggressive between them and their water. He paused. And you absolutely do not assume that something slow in water is slow everywhere. Varric was quiet for a long moment. On the river, Mama 12 exhaled a slow, wet sound and sank another inch into the shallows. Completely unbothered. Completely unimpressed. We have surveyed 412 worlds, Varric said quietly. We have never encountered a species that keeps animals like these as neighbors. Ethan almost smiled. We don't keep them. They keep the land. We just learned, eventually, to pay attention. He looked at the Ravager. Looked at Varric. Welcome to Earth, Commander. I'd recommend starting over. Mama 12 blinked one slow, amber eye. The Confederation, for the first time in 43 campaigns, began to reconsider.